So another week, another ARL track, and this week was Unadilla, my favorite track of the season. It was the favorite track of the season last year as well, probably just because of the layout and how it races, but I thought this video I'm just gonna go straight into some lines and some tips and tricks to go around the track. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this left-hander right after the hole shot, and I'm going to look at the very inside. Now this could be a little bit tricky because of the bumps, but basically what we want to do is when we come here, you can see it's very bumpy. So the thing we do is we try to jump over all of these bumps and land in the corner. So you can see we're jumping over all the jumps and landing on these last bumps and going into the corner. So this starts all the way over here. The first thing we want to do is we want to slow down a little bit, go at a comfortable speed. Then we can see we are jumping on the bumps. We have some throttle, so the front end can be light, so we can go over the bumps instead of going down in between of them. And you can see I'm kind of letting off a little bit here just to slow down a little bit, but then once I'm about to take off again, I'm going full throttle to get the lift and jump over the last few bumps. So let's do a full run through this corner and notice my throttle and my right stick. Coming here, slowing down a little bit, just a little bit, flipping the throttle a little bit to stay on top of the bumps. So the next section is going to be this S section, and the thing we did in the races and qualifying is that we went to the outside here, jumped to the right side here, just to kind of straighten out the section and by that way be able to go faster. So this is all about the setup. I like to aim to a little bit to the right of this shark fin right here. You also want to be on the left here because it's kind of raised up. If you go down here, you're gonna have to deal with the rut and that might send you sideways. So by going a little bit to the left, you can see we can kind of jump over this middle rut here. So if I go a little bit closer, you can see I'm kind of jumping over this middle rut here. You don't want to be jumping on this, you want to be jumping over this. And being in a little higher gear could help just with traction and with not going too fast. Once you are over on this side, it's all about hitting the rut here. It's kind of deep, so it's a little bit tricky. Get this line good. You don't want to go too fast. You want to be slow down and be settled to the ground. That's really important. And then you just don't go too fast and you hit the next rut as well. So I'm gonna play this in slow motion and you can look at my throttle right here. Just a little bit, like halfway, just to keep some momentum, but not go too fast. So let's do that full speed now. So make sure aim right, get a nice angle, and just keep smooth. Also notice my right stick where I lean forward and give it a little bit of gas just to get the pop over the rut so we can jump into the corner smoothly. So let's look at this downhill U-turn, which could be really tricky. I'm gonna look at the inside right now, but the outsides are probably better and I'll get to that in a moment. But first let's look at the downhill, and I'm just gonna play in slow motion. I'm entering wide and notice my throttle. I'm keeping a little bit of throttle just to make sure the bike is settled, and I'm just braking a little bit and letting off the throttle and kind of rolling into the corner. Now once you are in the corner, the tricky thing is that the inside is kind of sending you outside the track. So that means we kind of have to cut out to the rut to get the right angle uphill. So when we come to about here, you can see I'm starting to turn sharper compared to the rut. So you can see I'm kind of leaving the rut here. I'm not following the rut out because then I will end up over here. And then I'm kind of using throttle control and leaning forward to make sure I have traction and drive up the hill. Now when going uphill, make sure that you have pressure on your front wheel and traction with the front wheel, because the second you lose traction with your front wheel on the uphill, you get purpose of physics. And one thing that you could do that to help this is to sit down all the way uphill. So let's do a full run, coming in smooth, little bit of throttle, cutting out of the rut, sitting down, and throttle control out of the rut. Another thing that is more advanced and not really that big of a deal, it's more like a cool thing to do, is once you come out of this corner, you have this kind of downhill. So the thing you can do is you actually wheelie and you soak up the downhill. You can kind of see getting your front wheel high and then letting the front wheel go down on the downhill here. just to kind of soak up and don't get as much airtime. Now this is a very small thing and I don't think you should worry about this. I just wanted to kind of show this because I think it's cool. This is a trick that kind of utilizes a little bit of the Piboso physics, because once you're coming out of the rut, if you turn quickly upright, so you can see I'm turning left, if I quickly kind of turn right, the bike wants to wheelie, because the bike wants to wheelie with quickly stand the bike up. That's kind of a little bit Piboso physics. If you time that right with the right gear and the right throttle, you can make the bike wheelie out of the corner. You need to have very good timing for it to work, and you have to have the right amount of speed, etc. But it's just a cool thing. So let's try to do that in a full run. So coming into the corner, you have to have quite a lot of speed, straight the corner, flick the left stick. So that's it for the lines and the tips for the track. For the racing part of things, I really like this track because you have to you can't go too fast because you have to let the bike settle to be able to go fast in most of these corners, and that just suits my style. You can kind of slow down a little bit and not lose too much time and just be consistent, and that's kind of what I'm good at. So this track really suits me. I think it flows well. I think it could have been a little bit more rough in my opinion, but I mean, it's definitely not too bad compared to some other tracks that we got this year. I ended up going 14.9 in the race for 12 overall, which I'm really happy with. And yeah, that's basically all for this video. If you like it, and if you have any questions, contact me through Discord. It's linked in the description. I have some coaching and some setups for bikes as well in that server, so feel free to join. Like this, the setups are free, the coaching is like $5, and yeah.